What if I told you that behind the polished glamour of Hollywood, behind the designer suits and the red carpets, some of the biggest stars in entertainment history built homes so bizarre, so revealing, and sometimes so disturbing that their estates have tried for decades to erase them from memory. Tonight, we're stepping beyond the velvet ropes and iron gates into the 21 weirdest celebrity mansions ever built. These homes weren't just lavish. They were monuments to ego, reflections of madness, and secret playgrounds for the rich and famous. This isn't gossip. These are real, verified homes, documented through estate sales, public records, and the whispers of staff and visitors who saw the truth behind the curtains. You'll learn why Charlie Chaplin built spy tunnels under his lawn, why Jane Mansfield turned her home into a blinding pink shrine, and how a silent screen goddess transformed her mansion into a secret hotel for Hollywood's misfits. These aren't just homes, they're twisted museums of fame, loneliness, obsession, and unchecked imagination. Let's begin our tour of Hollywood's strangest, most secretive residences. 21. Charlie Chaplin, the Comedy King's underground network. From the street, Charlie Chaplin's Beverly Hills home looked modest, classy, quiet, exactly what you'd expect from a man who made the world laugh with silent charm. But beneath that peaceful surface, a secret network of tunnels ran beneath the lawn. One led to a wine cellar, but others, according to neighbors and former staff, Chaplin used them to evade reporters during the McCarthy era when he was under fire for alleged communist sympathies. Some say the tunnels stretched into neighboring properties, and Chaplin, he'd emerge from hidden doors during parties, surprising guests like a magician in his own private theater. And speaking of theater, he had a mini stage built right in the garden, where he'd rehearse gags, perfect his walk, and tinker with comedy like a scientist. The house never updated its 1920s decor. Why? Chaplin didn't need to flaunt wealth. He built a home that honored his humble past, even as he lived like royalty. 20. Gloria Swanson, Casa del Sol. Next up, the original diva of the silent screen, Gloria Swanson. Her Beverly Hills mansion, Casa del Sol, looked like a Spanish castle. Arched doorways, exotic tiles, and a private chapel inside the house. She filled it with rare Egyptian artifacts, global antiques, and hidden rooms connected by secret passageways. One room was so private it didn't even appear on floor plans. It was her escape pod, where she hid from the spotlight when the fame got too loud. But maintaining that empire, it got harder after her star dimmed with the rise of talkies. The mansion became a monument to fading glory. 19. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler's secret spy den. Tucked high in the Hollywood Hills, Flynn's Mulholland farm wasn't just a home. It was a wild fortress where fantasy, danger, and debauchery collided. Designed to match the swashbuckling legend himself, this estate was a monument to a man who lived larger than the roles he played in Captain Blood or the adventures of Robin Hood. Behind the Spanish-style facade lay an elaborate network of secret passages, some leading to hidden bedrooms used for clandestine affairs and late-night escapes. Rumors swirled of a hidden tunnel leading to a neighboring property, which Flynn allegedly used to sneak lovers in or out without being seen. At the heart of it all was a two-way mirror, positioned in the main entertaining area, allowing Flynn to observe guests without them ever knowing. It wasn't just voyeuristic, it was strategic. Errol Flynn liked to control the room even when he wasn't in it. And then there was the private pistol range, a chilling testament to Flynn's obsession with firearms and adventure. Visitors recalled the echo of gunshots rolling down the canyon as he practiced for hours, boasting about his marksmanship. Friends said he treated it like theater, a performance of masculinity, danger, and charm all rolled into one. But the house wasn't just wild, it was haunted by contradictions. It was a playground, yes, but also a retreat from scandal. By the 1940s, Flynn's reputation had grown darker. He was accused of statutory rape during a highly publicized trial in 1942, from which he was acquitted, and his finances became as chaotic as his personal life. Creditors, lawsuits, political enemies, all found reasons to circle his estate like vultures. So Flynn built walls, literal and emotional. Inside his fortress, he remained the king of his chaotic kingdom. Outside, the world was catching up. In the end, Flynn's estate wasn't just a home. It was a pirate ship marooned in the hills, a place where romance, rebellion, danger, and paranoia danced late into the night. A perfect reflection of the man who built it. 18. Mae West, white, wild, and weird. Mae West didn't need a mansion. She turned her Hancock Park apartment into a temple of sensuality and power. Everything was white: carpet, mirrors, furniture. It looked like a cloud made of cocaine. The centerpiece? A custom-designed, seashell-shaped bed. It was legendary, like Mae herself. She decorated with her own film costumes, props, and portraits, turning her home into a living museum, a shrine to her own legacy. She wasn't just a star, she was the art. 17. John Barrymore, the Gothic castle of a mad genius. John Barrymore's estate, Bella Vista, was a Gothic dream laced with madness. It had secret book compartments in the walls, a private Shakespeare stage, and decor that looked more haunted mansion than Hollywood villa. Guests said the vibe was both stunning and unsettling. This was no party house. It was a dramatic temple to theater, passion, and Barrymore's tortured genius. 16. Hedy Lamarr, the inventor's hidden lab. She was the most beautiful woman in Hollywood, and she built a science lab inside her house. Yes, Hedy Lamarr, starlet of the 1940s, had a hidden room where she invented tech that would later inspire Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. She didn't let many see it, because back then, women weren't supposed to be smart, especially not this smart. Her secret lab wasn't vanity, it was defiance. She had beauty and brains, and Hollywood only wanted the former. 15. Howard Hughes, the Fortress of Fear. In the 1920s, Hughes was a golden boy, a brilliant young aviator, filmmaker, and inventor. He bought his Beverly Hills estate during this dazzling rise, a sprawling property that included its own private airstrip, allowing him to come and go without ever setting foot in public terminals. To outsiders, it was the ultimate bachelor's playground. But over the decades, that playground slowly morphed into something darker and far more disturbing. As Hughes's mental health began to deteriorate, crippled by undiagnosed OCD, chronic pain, and addiction, his home transformed from a mansion into a self-imposed prison. He didn't just remodel rooms, he sealed them off. Employees were forbidden to speak to him directly. Every surface had to be sterilized. He installed industrial-grade air filtration systems to keep out imaginary germs. Curtains stayed closed, lights dimmed. The once vibrant estate became a tomb of silence and surveillance. Hidden corridors and backdoor passageways allowed Hughes to move around unseen, avoiding even his own staff. Surveillance cameras and intercom systems replaced face-to-face interaction. His employees had to wear white gloves. Some weren't even allowed to look at him, and every request, no matter how small, came with a typed memo. He watched movies obsessively, often the same one on repeat for days. He urinated in jars. He stopped cutting his nails. Entire wings of the estate went dark and used, while Hughes huddled in sealed rooms, terrified of contamination. At his peak, Howard Hughes built aircraft that broke world records. He made movies that dazzled audiences. He dated the most beautiful women in Hollywood. But by the end, his mansion wasn't a symbol of success. It was a monument to madness. A high-tech bunker where the most brilliant mind in aviation history vanished into the shadows of his own fears. His home was no longer a residence. It was a fortress, a cage, and ultimately a mirror, a reflection of a man whose genius soared too high and came crashing down inside walls no one else could enter. 14. Dolores Del Rio, the modernist masterpiece. In an era when Hollywood measured success in chandeliers and gold-plated bathtubs, Dolores Del Rio, Mexico's first international film star, chose something radically different. She didn't build a palace. She commissioned a modernist masterpiece. Her Los Angeles home, designed by visionary architect Richard Neutra in the 1920s, was a glass and steel sanctuary perched in defiance of Tinseltown's success. Its clean lines, minimalist layout, and vast windows captured California's light like a painting in motion. The space breathed open, airy, alive. But it wasn't cold. It was deeply personal. Inside, Del Rio filled her home with Mexican folk art, pre-Columbian artifacts, and handmade textiles. Each piece told a story of her culture, her journey, her pride. Walls weren't crowded with portraits of herself, but with bold works by Diego Rivera, José Clemente Orozco, and other Latin American masters. The house was more than shelter. It was a political and artistic statement. You can be glamorous without being gaudy. You can be powerful without erasing your roots. Del Rio's home quickly became a gathering place for the creative elite, not just actors, but poets, painters, thinkers. Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera were frequent visitors. So were composers and writers fleeing the rigidity of commercial studios. At her home, ideas flowed as freely as the wine. It was a salon in the true Parisian sense, intellectual, provocative, alive. To Hollywood's elite, it was strange, too quiet, too austere, too meaningful. But to those with vision, Del Rio's home was a revolution in stucco and sunlight. She had the money to build anything. What she built was honor to her heritage, her intellect, her artistry. She rejected the fantasy most stars lived in and created a reality more beautiful than fiction. In a city obsessed with illusion, Dolores Del Rio built truth. She didn't need a crown. She already had a soul. 13. James Dean, the rebel's quiet retreat. James Dean, forever remembered as the Wild One, lived in a modest Sherman Oaks bungalow. No glamour, no fountains, just scripts, sketch pads, and a Porsche he worked on himself. This was where he wasn't a star, just a kid with a dream, a rebel with a record player. After his tragic crash, the house remained untouched for years, a frozen moment in a life that ended too fast. 12. Jane Mansfield, the Pink Palace. Imagine walking into a house so pink, it hurts your eyes. That was Jane Mansfield's Beverly Hills home. Pink carpets, pink appliances, a heart-shaped swimming pool that said, "I love you, Janie." It was Barbie's dream house on steroids. Her parties were soaked in champagne, and sometimes the fountain was too. Visitors needed sunglasses indoors, and yet under all the pink was pain, a desperate desire to stand out in Marilyn Monroe's shadow. 11. Buster Keaton, the Silent Stars Funhouse. At the peak of his fame in the 1920s, Keaton constructed a sprawling Beverly Hills estate that reflected the genius of a man whose face rarely smiled, but whose art brought joy to millions. It wasn't a mansion, it was a personal playground, a shrine to his boundless imagination and eccentric charm. The estate featured a Roman-style swimming pool, grand and sun-drenched, surrounded by stone columns and laughter. A trout stream curved through the grounds, yes, a real one, where guests could fish during garden parties. There was an aviary filled with exotic birds, their songs drifting through the air like background music from one of his silent films. But the real magic was indoors. Tucked behind a faux bookshelf was a hidden bar that transformed into a private screening room. After dinner, Keaton would usher in close friends, fellow artists, comedians, film technicians, and screen reels of his latest silent shorts. They'd sip whiskey, laugh at gags still in rough cut, and talk about slapstick like it was Shakespeare. Here, inside these walls, Keaton wasn't a fading star. He was a king. But as Hollywood's gears shifted from silence to sound, the magic began to crack. The very industry he helped build began to forget him. Studios thought his humor was outdated. Executives wanted voices, not physical genius. And that glorious mansion? It became a haunted palace of past applause. The laughter faded. The trout stream dried. The aviary emptied. What once echoed with applause now echoed with silence Keaton could no longer control. He sold the estate when the money ran out. The parties stopped. And yet, those who visited never forgot the brilliance built into every corner. Even in decline, the house whispered secrets of a man who once reigned as cinema's most fearless innovator. Buster Keaton built a dreamscape with his own hands. And when the world stopped watching, he stayed behind. Quietly brilliant, quietly broken. In Hollywood, where everything is pretend, his home was the realest thing he ever made. 10. Marion Davies, a palace by the sea. Imagine a 100-room mansion, 55 bathrooms, and a 110-foot pool. That was Marion Davies' Ocean House, bankrolled by media titan William Randolph Hearst. It was a monument to opulence. Guests included Winston Churchill, Charlie Chaplin, and every A-list name of the era. But when Davies died, the palace fell silent. A seaside empire built on love, power, and too much money. 9. Rudolph Valentino, the Cursed Castle. He called it Falcon Lair, a Gothic dreamscape meant to be his forever home. But just months after moving in, Rudolph Valentino died suddenly, age 31. Fans wept at the gates. Rumors of curses began. Eventually, the estate was demolished. But the myth of the cursed castle lingers, a romantic ghost story of silent film's fallen prince. 8. Mary Pickford, Hollywood's queen in her castle. Pickfair wasn't just a house. It was the social heart of 1920s Hollywood. 42 rooms, frequent guests like Einstein and Amelia Earhart. Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks created a palace that showed movie stars were cultured, classy, and powerful. But after their divorce, Mary became reclusive. Wandering halls that once held royalty, now filled with memories. The house was demolished in the 1990s. Only legends remain. 7. Douglas Fairbanks, the athletic star's retreat. Fairbanks built his own private adventure park. Lakes, boat houses, gyms, secret tunnels. He didn't just act in swashbuckling roles. He lived them. His estate in Santa Monica was part fantasy camp, part playground. As fame faded, Fairbanks found refuge here, away from the lights and the pain of Hollywood's forgetfulness. 6. Alla Nazimova, the Garden of Outcasts. Alla Nazimova created a bohemian hideaway on Sunset Boulevard. The Garden of Alla became a sanctuary for misfits, Scott Fitzgerald, Greta Garbo, Errol Flynn. She filled it with villas and a pool shaped like the Black Sea. It was art. It was rebellion. It was freedom in a town built on conformity. Eventually, it was demolished. But for a brief time, it was the heartbeat of Hollywood's creative underground. 5. William Randolph Hearst, America's Versailles. Hearst Castle wasn't a house, it was a country. 165 rooms, imported ceilings from Europe, gold-tiled pools, statues worth millions. It was excess beyond imagination. But Hearst was a man who needed to be the biggest in every room. Financial pressures forced him to sell art. But the castle? It still stands as a monument to megalomania and vision. 4. Jean Harlow, the House of Tragedy. Jean Harlow's Beverly Hills home became infamous after her husband, Paul Byrne, died mysteriously inside it. Rumors of murder, hauntings, curses. Then Harlow herself died young, just 26. And the house became a shrine to Hollywood's dark side. Some say it's still haunted. Others say it's just cursed by the fame that destroyed her. 3. Harold Lloyd, the silent clown's Green Empire. His estate, Green Acres, had 44 rooms, fountains, gardens, a private zoo, a golf course, and even a secret memorabilia room. Harold Lloyd turned success into a kingdom, a celebration of play, creativity, and spectacle. But when silent film faded, so did the income. Much of the property was sold off. What remains is a reminder. Empires rise and fall, even in Beverly Hills. 2. Clark Gable, the King's Escape. Clark Gable didn't want marble halls or heart-shaped tubs. He wanted land, peace, horses. His ranch in Encino was his real home, away from cameras, away from grief, especially after his wife Carol Lombard died. Locals remember seeing him ride alone across the hills, not as a star, just a man trying to breathe. 1. Cary Grant, the art of understated elegance. No pink fountains, no hidden laboratories, no gossip. Cary Grant's home was elegant because it was quiet, tucked behind hedges, tasteful, balanced, with winding paths and cozy rooms. Some say there was a secret room behind a bookshelf. Others say it was just his mystique. Either way, Cary Grant reminded us that sometimes less really is more. And so, we've seen what happens when fame meets fantasy, when millions of dollars meet unchecked imagination. Some of these homes became legends, others became ruins. One thing's for sure, the lives of the rich and famous are far weirder than we ever imagined. Which of these celebrity mansions shocked you the most? Could you live in a house with secret tunnels or a heart-shaped champagne pool? Let us know in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and join us next time for more shocking true stories from behind the golden curtain of fame. Until then, be grateful your bedroom isn't bubblegum pink.